This fidget cube is going to be a bit of a challenge. You're going to get a lot of information, but it's going to take some experimentation and multiple prints to get it working properly. We're going to print it with a flexible filament, and we're going to have to experiment with how much hinge space we need. So give it a try, see how it works, and be patient, and know that you may want to just practice a couple of prints with just 2 squares. For our exercise, we're going to use 20 millimeter cubes. And I'm actually, because we're just doing 20 millimeter cubes, I'm just going to use the primitive box because that's 20 millimeters cube. Click on it and I have a 20 millimeter cube. No point in getting fancy with extrusion. You're good to go. Now, there are all kinds of tools for duplicating this item. But what I've discovered is for this exercise, the easiest thing to do is copy and paste, because I want to put 1.5 millimeters between each cube. It's important that the cubes not be glued together except where we want them glued together, and I think 1.5 millimeters is going to work. If it doesn't, share with other people what works for you. So I'm going to click on the cube, Control C for copy, Control V for paste, and I'm going to use the down arrow and drag down, and because my cube is 20 millimeters and I want a 1.5 millimeter gap, I'm going to just drag it till it says 21.5. Hit the enter key, and that's going to be 2 20 millimeter cubes with a 1.5 millimeter distance in between. Same thing, Control C, Control V, and drag down again to 21.5. And lastly, you're going to do that one more time. We need 4 down, and we're going to need 2 across, so 21.5. The reason why I did it that way is it makes the math the simplest. I'm not trying to do 21.5 plus 20 plus 1.5. I can just do them one at a time. Now I'm going to highlight all of them. Control C, Control V, and again when I drag to the right, I'll be able to do that same 21.5, and that's a kind of a clever way to get all of our cubes that we need in place. Please stop and save what you've got, because otherwise you'll go crazy if you mess it up. I'm going to just call mine 8 cubes. Now, if I printed it now, I'm going to have 8 little rubber cubes. And what I want to do is have my fidget cube work properly. The top of my fidget cube, I'm going to pause you for a second. The top, or the first layer of my fidget cube, is going to need 2 connected units at the top and 2 cubes connected at the bottom. No connectors in between, just 1, 2, 3, 4 separate connectors. To make those connectors, I'm going to draw a rectangle and extrude it 1.5 millimeters. And again, I got to decide if that's what I want once I try it the first time. So 1 seam is going here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. So to make that seam, I'm going to go to my sketch rectangle, and now it's important that you click on the existing sketch. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to go to my first corner, over and across, and it should be 20 millimeters wide and 1.5 deep. That should be the size of my rectangle. Now, I want to do that same thing several times. So this is the rectangle that I want, and I want it right here. And I went 22 over, and I should have gone 21.5. And now I have 2 rectangles. Now, I'm going to extrude both of these at the same time. So I clicked on the first one, hold down the Control key, click on the second. With the pill, we're going to do extrude, and I'm going to go minus 1.5 millimeters. Now, I want it to be solid. I want it to be filling this in, and I need to make sure that it says merge. So that's merging those two together. Hit the enter key, and I now have a seam in both of those spots. I'm going to do the exact same thing down below. Oops, let's go back to fit. I need to do the same thing down here. I'm going to click on the first one, hold on the shift, click on the second, and again I want to make sure that I've got the rectangle showing. Control C, Control V. Apparently I only got one of them, so let me try again. Click on the first one, click on the second one, Control C, Control V, and I'm going to come down. And everything's a combination of 21 and a half. Does that look like it's in the right spot? I think that's in the right spot. Hit enter, and then we're going to extrude it. And we're going minus 1.5. And I got to do the same thing on the one next door since I only grabbed one of them. Minus 1.5. Okay, now go back out. I'm looking at my top, and I now have a seam on the top and bottom too, and I believe that matches the pattern that I had. Scoot it over here this time. Oops. It doesn't want to work that way. Okay, so I've got two squares, each one joined in the middle, two squares, each one joined in the middle, and nothing here. Okay, so that's number one. That's the front. Now we're going to go to the back. On the back side, which is really the bottom, I've got, again, two top ones linked together, two bottom ones linked together, and nothing in the middle. So I'm going to do the same process here and here to add in that 1.5 millimeter rectangle and extrude. So go ahead and do those two there, and then we're going to do the sides. The two long sides are going to be exactly the same. If I turn sideways, and again I've got left and right here, the top two cubes I leave alone and bottom two, and I'm going to just join them in between cubes 2 and 3. And I'm going to do the exact same process that I've been doing. I need to make very sure that when I draw that sketch rectangle, I do it on one of the existing cubes. Click on the corner, and again, our dimensions should be exactly the same every time, 1.5 and 20. And we're going to extrude this one, and again, it's exactly the same, minus 1.5. And that's filled in my gap there, and now I need to go to the right side. The right and left side are exactly the same. Now be careful, when you're looking at it, it looks like it's already filled in, but it's not. So I'm going to go here to this last one, go square on to the right, and I'm going to get my rectangle. Click on the sketch. Make sure you click on the top of that cube. Don't click in the gap because it'll put it in the wrong place. And we want, again, 1.5 and 20. 15 isn't going to fly. 1.5 and 20. We're going to extrude this one in. And I now should have, oops, that one didn't extrude in the way I wanted it to. Right. Extrude. 0.5. Sometimes it's easier to drag so that you can actually see that you're getting what you wanted. So now the last thing I've got is my top and my bottom. And if I look at the top and bottom on the original exercise, the top and bottom actually don't have to have anything done to them. The top and bottom are simply hinge pins. So in theory now, we should have everything set up so that we're ready to go. So let's go back and look at it again and double check that we've got all of our extrusions in the right place so we don't end up with just a bunch of little cubes printed out. If I'm looking at it from the top, on the top I should have, oops, gotta keep it from flipping. I'm looking at a real one here. If I'm looking at it on the top, I should have seam, solid, solid, which I appear to have. And if I go to the other side, I should have solid, solid, and again, it appears that I do. You might want to double check against a real one. On the other side, so let's go to the left side, I should have one connector there and one on the other, and my ends should be open. So in theory, this gets me everything I want. Now, we're going to print this the first time and see how it comes out. Now, everybody's not going to print a failure. If you print yours and it doesn't work the way you wanted it to, and you did the dimensions the right way, we may need to tweak the dimensions a little bit. The other thing that may need to happen is these steps may need to be skinnier. They may be this web may be too steep. Or we may need to put a crease down the middle of it so that it will bend more easily. But for a first step, this is where we're going to get started. Once you get it printed out, see if the seams come apart. You may have to trim it a little bit with a knife, and let's see how it works. Make sure that you save it and that you also then export to your STL. When you go to your STL file, it should be one object. If you get that combined objects, zoom back out, save it, and then save it again with another name because we don't want to necessarily have to unmerge them. So I'm going to just merge this whole thing together. And now when I, again, oh, there we go. Okay. Now, stop. At this point, I'm going to just give up because I'm tired. I'm going to save as an STL. I'm going to just combine objects here, which is not the best way to do it. Now, we're going to print this as a sample and see how it comes out. We're going to print one, see how it works, and go from there. Alrighty? Keep modifying till it works and is nice and loose and you can flex around with it and fidget all you want.